I'm sorry, Doctor. It's dead. There's nothing more we can do. It's Halloween, so I've decided to talk about the spookiest thing of them all, Fallout 76 closing down forever, resulting in me losing my job and having to go back to retail work. I really don't want that to happen, so please subscribe and watch some of my non-76 content that I made this week, because I never want to sell shoes again. So in this video we're talking about the inevitable death of 76. To be clear, I'm not saying this is someone who hates 76 or the Fallout franchise. I've been covering the game since before release. But it's a case that everything dies and you can't escape that. With a game like Fallout 76, there are plenty of people out there who like to comment on my videos, "Dead game." But when will they say that and it be true? To start off, we're going to have to define what the criteria for a dead game is, as I think there's a few different levels to it. Fallout 76 is an always online game, so the most extreme example of its death is pretty clear. Impossible to ever play due to servers being permanently shut down. If Bethesda pulls the plug, then it's game over. Next is removal of support. Bethesda could keep servers running or allow offline play, but stop updating entirely, leaving this game in whatever its state it's at, and allow it to drift off peacefully. This isn't an instant death like pulling the plug, but it will still lead to the same outcome. Because it takes a while, I'd say we'd have to add 50% of the game's lifespan on to calculate actual time of death. For example, if a game had stopped being supported after 12 months, then we'd have an 18-month time of death. Final death counter is related to number of players, and is also the one most commonly referred to by trolls in the comments. For this, I'd say that dropping below 10k peak players in a month for 3 months is the marker. When a Fallout game isn't able to get more players than I get views, it's just gone. With our definitions sorted, let's talk about each one in depth and try to get a rough guess on when each could realistically take place. First, total server destruction. For Bethesda to flip the switch and turn the game off entirely, all it takes is for those at the top to decide that the game isn't worth supporting anymore. If the game is costing more to keep up and running than it's making in return, then there's an incentive for the company to cut the cord. Sure, they could run the game at a loss for a while to try and show support for the community, but if the losses are large enough, there's no way they bleed money to keep a very small percentage of players happy. I've been trying to work out a rough estimate of how much it costs per day to keep 76 up and running, but after scrolling through several forum threads and staring blankly at Amazon server prices, I really have no idea. We don't know how many people are being paid to work on this game, or how much. Likewise, we don't know how many servers or what price they're at, but I do know that the game must cost thousands of dollars every single day just to stay on track. As for working out a rough idea of how much the average gamer is spending on microtransactions in MMOs, this was really easy to find. TheGamer.com made an article back in April looking into how much MMO players spend on in-game purchases. Using these beautiful charts from Top Dollar, they were able to get an average number of $229 spent on in-game purchases in total. We'll break that number down a little more soon, but first up, apparently male average spending is a lot higher than female spending, so seeing as I'm permanently stuck with a 96% male audience, why don't some of you guys support me over on Patreon? It's like the microtransactions of YouTube. For as little as $1 a month, you can view the exclusive Patreon chat channel in Discord, get monthly video game wallpapers created by me, and even have your name in the end card. But seriously, the demographic who spend the most on microtransactions is the 35 to 44 male market, which makes up nearly a fifth of my views, so to all of you, please do make sure you're being careful with your money, alright? Back to that figure of $229. That covers all the money spent across multiple games, so we need to figure out how much of that would likely be spent on 76. Top Dollar have broken down which genres of MMO games get the most money spent on them. Coming in at the top are MMORPGs, which I guess 76 kind of is? It also technically falls under the next 4 top paying MMOs, those being Shooter, Battle Royale, Open World and Action. Bethesda may not have created a polished online experience, but they sure have technically ticked the profit genre boxes. So I think from that we could assume that a decent chunk of the average would go towards 76. What I'm going to do is cut the average in half, and then round down to the mathematically pleasing $100 spent on average per player. This might seem a lot at first to some of you, but this is the average lifetime cost, and Fallout First costs that much if you're in America, and even more if you're in the UK like me, so that's a bit of a piss take. Obviously not everyone is buying Fallout First for a year, but with Atom bundles which contain unique outfits, Atom shop transactions from a store which changes each week, and whatever else Bethesda tries to add in the future, there's definitely going to be a good few whales out there spending thousands on this game over the years. With such extensive monetization and a reasonable enough player base, the game should be making a decent chunk. Without knowing the overhead costs or the player numbers, something I did try to work out in a previous video, it's not possible to get a solid read on how much the game needs to be making to keep going, nor how much it's currently making. For this one, sadly, we do just have to guess. We have to guess that the game is currently making a profit, so in order for the game to start bleeding cash, it's going to take a large percentage of players to leave the game, or for the majority of players to reduce their spending on the game, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. Fallout First just got a free trial, and I imagine it snared in plenty of players because the scrap box is amazing. Although I believe this should be free to all players, there's no way that Bethesda will do it because right now it's earning them $100 a year, for every player that they can get to be dependent on it. Because of this, I can't see a total death of the game happening within the foreseeable future. Even with frustrated players, bad press and a rocky launch, Fallout 76 has still been able to keep a core audience playing the game, and forking over cash for some added luxuries. The earliest I could see a plug pull scenario would be 5 years from now. With the current content output kept up and things keeping their current course, the game should be fairly stable and could keep going near indefinitely. But this is a game with more than its fair share of issues. With every major upset, more people leave, and others decide they won't keep paying for a broken product. If the bad press for the game never fully goes away, updates get worse and worse, and a few newsworthy things go horribly wrong, then I could see 2025 being the year they shut down the game. But that is with everything going wrong. Even if Bethesda shuts down the game, they could always put in some work to make a version that's playable offline, essentially keeping the game alive forever by this definition. It's likely not going to be something that happens until the end days, but it's better for everyone than removing the game entirely. So a full-on game death is very unlikely. Even if everything goes wrong, the game could be ported offline and left behind to just make the occasional sale from a curious gamer. With that all said, let's move on to the second definition, removal of support. Currently, we get semi-regular roadmaps showing us various upcoming content, some of which is pretty big stuff. We know that there's a fair few things coming next year due to them being delayed. Let's run with a hypothetical for a minute and say that the currently announced content is pretty much all of the big stuff that's left. By the middle of next year, there's no more major updates, just the odd purveyor sale or double XP weekend. If that were the case, then by 2022 support could end entirely, things just being left to run on auto. This would be 4 years of total support, the game having released in 2018. Earlier I said that I'd add 50% of the game's supported lifespan onto the total life of the dev, so add 2 extra years and we have a dev date of 2024. So if there's no more big content plans, we've only got 4 years left! But there's probably more content to come, so we'll treat that as the low-end estimate. For the high-end estimate, I think we could assume that the game would stop being supported around the same time that Fallout 5 comes out. At that point, there's another Fallout for people to move on to. But what's a reasonable date for that? Well, we know that it won't be until a good few years after the next Elder Scrolls title, and that's not happening until after Starfield. A release date isn't yet out for Starfield, so the earliest I could see it being released is next year? A late 2021 release for the new IP wouldn't want to be too close to Skyrim's sequel. At the earliest, there would be a year before Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, so 2022 as Elder Scrolls 6 release? Why not? I fancy a new Elder Scrolls game. Taking a look at the previous 2 main installments, there was a 4-year break between Skyrim's release and that of Fallout 4. If we assume the same gap would take place between Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5, then the earliest release date for Fallout 5 would be 2026. If support stops in 2026, then that's 8 years of support, add on 50% and our new dev date would be 2030. You know, that doesn't seem all that bad to me. 12 years of Fallout 76 is a reasonable life for a video game. Right now we have estimates going from the middle of a decade to the start of the next one. That's not all that harrowing though, is it? Today's Halloween, and I need to scare you, so let's talk about the most likely death, lack of players. At the start of the video I said that if the game dropped below a 10k player peak for 3 months, then it would be the end. There's likely a few of you who ran to the Steam charts when I said that and are now going, Sarge, Steam says there's less than 10,000 people playing, the game's dead, it's dead. First off, never talk to me, you're an idiot with an annoying voice and no sense of style. Secondly, that's just the Steam numbers, showing a peak for the past 24 hours. As I'm writing this script, I've taken a look at the past few months on Steam, and even just on that platform, there's about a week's worth of days with over 10,000 players on at once. Right now, there's hundreds of thousands of people who play Fallout 76, so we're not at any huge risk of the game dying through lack of players right away. Unless Bethesda do something really stupid, which causes most players to abandon the game. They'd have to release an update which actually made the game unplayable for most of the community, and never truly patch it. And when I say unplayable, I really mean it. Right now there's a lot of us who are encountering various issues with the game, but we are still getting on and playing. Player numbers definitely do drop when things go wrong, but taking another look at the Steam charts, we can see that things are pretty stable overall. 76 has a large core audience who aren't abandoning it anytime soon. It's going to take a lot to truly kill 76. It might not be doing great, but it's trucking along at a steady rate. I know I said I was going to scare you with the most likely death, but I don't think it's actually going to be the case. There have been so many mistakes made with this game, so many times that people have shouted about how they'll leave if X or Y happens, and throughout all of that, the player numbers have managed to keep fairly stable. When will Fallout 76 die? Not for a good few more years. There's enough of us playing this game to give it a long life. I'd honestly love to have some kind of impending doom note to be able to end on, but I don't. This makes for a pretty terrible ending, but yeah, game's likely going to keep plodding along for a while. My earliest estimates give it to the middle of the decade. Maybe Amazon's servers will all explode, or Todd Howard will go mad with power and ban every 76 player. But outside of crazy things like these, there's no impending doom and gloom on the horizon when it comes to this game. Probably for the best considering the current state of the world. We've all got more than enough to worry about right now, so let's just enjoy 76 and not get too worked up over its future. Take it for what it is, and do with it what you will. So, that's it for the video. Links to Discord, Patreon and more is in the description. Apologies it was a bit lackluster end, but hey, boring's best. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.